and tonight we're going to talk about a true crime case, and this time we're going to talk about Jodi Arias tonight. So, former prepaid legal employee and failed photographer, Jodi Arias. And this is the story of how she murdered Travis Alexander, her ex-boyfriend. The murder took place in 2008 in Mesa, Arizona. I believe at the time she was 28 when she committed the crime. Travis Alexander was born July 28th, 1977, and he died June 4th, 2008. His body was discovered June 9th. Travis was a boyfriend that she had met through working at Prepaid Legal. He was a prepaid legal practicing Mormon from Riverside, California, as well as a motivational speaker in his spare time. The two met September of 2006, and by November 2006, Arias was getting herself baptized in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because that screams a healthy relationship. I don't know. I'm just saying. So, June 29th, 2007, the couple breaks up. So, again, they were broken up. But they continued to sleep together. And in fact, she moved out of her parents' house in California and moved closer to him after their breakup, moving to an apartment in Mesa, Arizona, only a few minutes away from Travis. And she was basically stalking him. His friends were quite concerned about this, and definitely not. They were not a fan of her. They did not like Arias at all. But they were reportedly unaware of the fact the two were still sleeping together. Also, she would show up at his home randomly, unannounced, and just let herself in his home. So, his cause of death was blood loss due to the stab wounds inflicted upon him. There was also trauma to the head. He was stabbed 27 times. His throat slit, and he was shot in the head. And they believe it was in that order. So many wonder, well, why did she snap, right? What happened? I'll tell you what, she was super jealous. Crazy stalker ex, okay? You don't sleep with the crazy ex after you've broken up. Just know. So Travis was going on a trip, I believe for work, and he had the option to bring a lady with him. Naturally, in Jodi's delusional mind, she assumed the person would be herself. But in fact, Travis had become interested in another lady, a already Mormon lady, named Mimi. So this religious aspect has some significance to this case, as Travis Alexander is a practicing Mormon. So she would try to fit this mold of this God-fearing, mousy female in this kind of persona. And she used this to try to make people more sympathetic towards her as well. So that is interesting indeed. So the murder scene itself, Jodi photographs Travis in the shower with his new camera. While in a vulnerable position, she stabs him 27 times, mind you. She slits his throat and then she shoots him in the head. So she ended up taking some unintentional photos showing the murder and her feet. Oh my, scandalous. She tried washing the camera and running it in the dryer because that makes sense. What were we thinking in the 2000s, I suppose? She got blood all over as she hastily tried to clean up the crime scene, but clearly didn't put that much of an effort into it. She was unable to completely wipe the crime scene of traces of her. So last photos of his body, of him alive, were taken at 5:29 p.m. that day. And there were also some sexually suggestive posed photos, timestamped at 1:40 p.m. Spicy photos were also part of how detectives determined the time of death, going with the time of 5:29. Detectives also noted bloody palm prints in the hall, made up of a combination of both Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander's blood. Detectives find Jodi's hair at the scene as well. Discovery of his body. His body was found by Mimi, I believe, and her girlfriends as they were supposed to go on this trip together. Awkward. Which was also what prompted Jodi to murder him. So it's interesting how that all works out. The murder weapon. So on May 28th, 2008, Jodi's grandparents reported a .25 caliber gun missing. The same kind of gun that Alexander was shot in the head with. So interesting. So when arrested, Arias claims she's innocent, and one of the things she said was, "I don't even hurt spiders. No one asked about if you hurt spiders." I'm sorry, she's crazy. It's like, look at me. I'm an innocent little mousy girl who couldn't hurt a fly. When being interviewed by a detective, she also rambles on about irrelevant subject matter, desperate to get away from the reason that they have her there. In one story, she goes on and on about how she kicked this dog one time and how bad she still feels about it. She has given multiple different stories. I would highly recommend, though, looking at the interviews with her and detectives. While being interrogated, Jodi initially tries to deny being there when Travis died, repeatedly claiming that she last saw him in April, despite the fact they had photo and DNA evidence placing her at the scene at the time of his murder. Though initially they did not let on that they had this, they were playing her. Then she changes her tune and claims that these two intruders committed the crimes, one female and one male, and that she ran away, that they threatened her, but somehow let her leave. This seems kind of unlikely, though. She was indicted for first-degree murder July 9th, 2008, which is only a month after his death. On September 11th, 2008, she pleads not guilty. At the time, she's quoted saying, "No jury is going to convict me. I'm innocent, and mark my words on that." So her trial comes January 2013. Sorry for the AC noise. Prosecution is intent on the death penalty. So one of these versions of her stories work. 4 years following his death, Jodi and her defense come up with a new story. She maintains that Travis is a good man. A good man. Of course. guilty of first-degree murder. Though the jury is not able to come to a unanimous agreement as to whether the murder was premeditated or not, after being found guilty, Arias ends up on suicide watch. Though I have no sympathy for her, nor do I think she was being serious about it. Just my opinion. She's manipulative. According to USA Today, there is actually secret testimony of her from October 30th, 2014, where her attorney, Jennifer Wilmot, asks Arias if she murdered Alexander, and she answers yes. When asked when she first admitted to committing the murder, Arias disclosed that she did so back in 2010, 2 years following the murder. Following the hung jury, again, as I mentioned before, they couldn't determine certain things. A second jury panel was put together September 2014 with the sole purpose of determining a sentence of life or death for Arias. Having already been found guilty at this point, Arias testified, like I said, discussing her remorse, her strange behavior following the murder of Alexander, and the manner in which she had poorly attempted to cover her tracks by calling Alexander and reaching his voicemail and driving to Utah to meet some dude referred to as a potential suitor. How fucking old are we? Okay, like, he's my potential suitor. Good for you, bro. Good for you. I mentioned before there was a hung jury. But by April 13th, 2015, she ends up sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. And this decision took the jury 26 hours to determine, I guess, what I read. So, life in prison. Also wanted to note that Jodi Arias is out here making money in prison for her artwork. It's like her version of Son of Sam cashing in on her infamy. Or, cashing in on her crimes, basically. To the point where she was actually banned from eBay. Friends who run a website for her to sell her art on. She began selling her art in the midst of the trial around the time of opening statements back in 2013. There are a bunch of documentaries on her as well, or on the murder. But there's like this whole obsession with her, kind of, because of her personality and like that sort of thing. She's not who you would expect